Previously not on Unranked.
Here's what we're gonna do. You and I are gonna record a post show, and then I'm gonna do a solo episode tomorrow. The sound of a spindrift to start yet another episode of the Unranked podcast. All right, here we are. It's episode 477 and part two, or 47. Let's call it 477 do, because this is our second take at it. And by our, I mean mine. Last evening at a delayed podcast start hour, because Tom was away and Alex had to deal with his child. We recorded an episode, and when I went to stop sharing after the previously on, I ended up stopping record by accident. And well, here I am now because Alex is in St. Louisville, Kentucky, which is an interesting place for him to be. He is on a bachelor party. So I'm going to recap what we talked about. I'm going to talk about some stuff. I might get into some other things, entertainment, games, news, respond to some listener questions, and then I'm going to end on blueprints so that I can kind of talk around the game again for people now that I've actually like completed it, at least the main quest, whatever, or what we believe the main quest is. But then I'll go into spoilers and stuff. So I'm gonna just put that at the end so that if you are still avoiding spoilers or you are yet to play the game, you don't want to hear anything about it, like you can just cut it there. And for any of our Spartans, we do still have our after show because I noticed when we stopped the episode and we went to go do the post show that the recording had stopped because it restarted at that point, which sucks. Anyway, that's right. We're talking about today's Pokemon. It is Dusknoir. And Dusknoir is a new evolution for a formerly two-stage Pokemon known as Dusclops. And Dusclops, like Dusknoir, is also based on a Japanese lantern. It's also based on a yokai. Dusklops was more obviously designed like it, but you can certainly see it. It sort of has that bell top on the head on the more ornate ones versus like the more simplified version that Dusklops is based off of. The mouth is actually like down by the body, and there are two parts on its body that look like eyes, but that's actually not its face. It's one singular eye like Dusklops on Dusknoir on the top. Design-wise, the color is a little bit different. It's much more of a black, dark grays, a little bit of a lighter gray, and yellow, whereas Dusclops was primarily like an off-white, light gray color. I am recording this outside on my roof, so there might be some background noise from time to time, a little ambient texture for you. Hopefully it's not too annoying, but I was sort of mildly not excited to re-record this solo. So I was like, you know what? It's nice out. I'm gonna go bring this up to the roof and get in the hammock and just record from there. Make it nice, make a day of it. It would be nice. And let's talk about its name, which should obviously, if you haven't been able to interpret, is based off of the word dusk and the word noir. Dusknoir may be a combination of dusk and noir, French for black, like film noir, or for our gamers, LA noir. That's it. It's very straightforward. The Japanese name Yornir may be a combination of Yoma, ghost, and Yori, Yoru for night, and noir. Yo noir, it looks like. Theirs is called. Color-wise for the shiny, it's a very, very slight change. It goes from black to blue, and the gray is almost a little green tinged, but it's a very slight change there. It's not anything really significant, I would say. Let's take a look at the Pokedex and see what it's got to say. Comes to those whose lives have come to an end and escorts their souls to the afterlife, known to mistakenly take the souls of those who have yet to have life in them, yet to have life left in them, albeit rarely. So usually it comes and escorts your souls to the afterlife, but every now and then it's It's a little early. So still got a little life left in you. It's not maybe the best time to see a Dusknoir at that point. But hey, we can't all be so lucky. Now, as to where we put this on the Pokedex yesterday, that is already determined. I am not going to override that simply because I do have the opportunity without that recording, because Alex and I pretty much immediately agreed on where this should be. And yeah, I think it was a very easy one for us to figure out and find. It is on the lower end of the Pokemon that we've had up before. It is right in the 60s. In fact, I actually think we put it, oh no, it's in the 50s. We put it exactly one above last week's Probo Pass. We're like, this is still certainly better than a Bronzong at 55. Uh, Probo Pass is at 54, and now Dusknoir is the new 53, right? Not the new 52. Maybe not cooler than Tangrowth. Tangrowth's pretty great. I love my Fry Guy Pokemon. All right, so now we can move on from Dusk Noir, and I don't want to just go over the things that we talked about because, quite frankly, Alex would do a better job doing what he talked about than I would. So I'll mostly leave his stuff out, but he actually had a crazy week because on Sunday, he sent us, oh no, it was actually the day before Sunday. He was at his mother-in-law's and his kid got bit by a cat. And a lot of you might not know this, but cat scratch fever is not the most aptly named because the bacteria that causes it comes from cat saliva, and it is more often caused by cat bites, although it can be caused by a cat scratch. Um, just because the cats clean and groom themselves, uh, which also, funnily enough, is the same reason like people that are allergic to cats, it's not their cat hair. It's not like dander, like a dog that they're allergic to. It's actually the same. It's the saliva. It's in the cat's saliva. And it's their grooming habits that cause their fur then to carry the things that humans have allergies to. Which there are now like really interesting ways around that where there is food, there are like additives for your cat's food that come from chicken eggs. Um, there's like a protein, I believe, that chickens that have contact with cats, these chickens will produce this protein or this enzyme. I can't remember. It might be an enzyme. And then their eggs will then contain it. And then if cats eat it, it will cut it out. Like your cats will no longer be producing the allergen for humans, which is very interesting. Uh, I have no need for it. There's no one here that's related to us that comes to the house that has cat allergies, but it is good to know, especially like if you're a family where one person's mildly allergic to the cat, there is a way around that. Suffice to say, kids are right, but we didn't really get a lot of time in on Laser Hell again this week. So we're still at room 4, but we have made progress on this week's run attempt at it. It turns out there's a jumping mechanic neither of us were aware of, where if you double tap dash, double tap the dash button, you from the ground, not a jump, because you can only dash once in the air. But if you dash and then dash again while on the ground, you'll do a roll. And if you jump out of that roll, which you just have to do it like immediately, so that you hit, double tap dash and then jump, you will do a back spring jump. And we never had to use that in the game. So I find it interesting that they actually have this mechanic and it never required us to use it anywhere. And it does get you higher. And there's this sort of like, you can't wall jump, and it looks like a space in which you would need to wall jump so you can outrun these lasers that are coming for you. And every time we would get to it, it's just instant death. We never made it past the third platform. We were always like, we need to be wall jumping. And what you end up having to do looks like a wall jump, but it isn't. You are doing this like backspring towards the wall and then doing your double jump. And because the backspring does a much higher vertical jump, you're able to actually reach the platform directly above you. Um, it's so bizarre to me that this mechanic's in the game and it's completely unrequired. They don't use it any. I mean, not yet. Maybe we'll need it, or maybe it would have made some longer or higher jumps easier to do that were maybe a little bit trickier earlier in the game. But I am fascinated that they bothered to put it in, but it's not required seemingly, other than here. That maybe it just exists for that. Or maybe they realized it was an underutilized mechanic, and so they decided like, hey, let's build one platforming puzzle that they have to kind of get through. Well, it's more like a challenge than a puzzle because figuring that out wasn't like a mystery. It was just the fact that like the game had never told us that this mechanic was there and never required it from us. We never had to do it before. So I thought that was really cool. That was awesome. We felt like we made progress with that. And now the third room's not that difficult for us. We only got to really try and do it for about like 20-25 minutes. We are both just obsessively playing Blueprints. That is primarily like we probably spent half the time talking about that. It was a shorter episode anyway, so this won't be actually too far off the mark in terms of that. Um, Next week we're gonna record early because we're going on what is known as a baby moon. I don't know if anyone here is familiar with such a thing. But we never took a honeymoon either. And we tried to do this before my wife was further along. And I had basically said, like, well, we shouldn't do it anymore because it's going to be tough on her to fly. Not going to be able to do as much. We're not going to. But she definitely wants to go. So I'm like, great. So we're going to Hawaii we're doing just like an extended uh we'll be there for like 3.5 days, 4 nights. So it's like a pretty quick turnaround. But if you live in Southern California, it takes me as long to fly to Hawaii as it does to New York. It's about 5.5 hours, 5.5, 6 hours, depends on which direction you're going. So I'm really looking forward to that. We are going to stay at the Disney resort because they have, of course, a lazy river. They actually have two. They have one that has rapids, which is not so lazy. Wife's going to have to sit that one out. I will probably be making my way right over to it. Yeah, so there's two great lazy rivers. There's multiple pools. The main attraction that you really want to be there for is the lagoon. The lagoon is great, and there's great food there. But we wanted something that had a lot of like resort amenities, a lot of places to like chill, and we'll probably be at the lagoon beach. I don't know how much we're gonna do. I know one of the days we're definitely just staying there the full day. Maybe do like a spa day or something. That might be nice. Um, but the other 2 days, we, I mean, we're definitely we got to do the ranch tour. If you've never been to Oahu, the ranch tour is amazing. There's so many great movies and TV shows that have been filmed there. So you see a lot of different like sets and spots and locations for filming, specifically also obviously Jurassic Park, Lost, not the Lost Beach Camp, however, which I have a feeling we won't go to because that's on the complete opposite side of the island, which, um, I don't know if we're gonna want to rent a car or not because I mean, we're there for so short of a time. So hard to say whether we're gonna do a ton, especially because with my wife being further along, it's gonna be pretty tiring. We're not gonna really like want to do hikes and stuff. So maybe we will rent a car so that it can like drive us up like the mountainside or something. Because I'm not gonna have her go squeeze through the Diamond Head Trail. Which if you've done the Diamond Head Trail, it's really really cool. I've only ever been there once, but I did do it, and it was I mean, it's an incredible view. Also, another lost filming sites where they did the Dharma Village, so that was pretty neat. But yeah, like there are these like little cave pathways you have to like squeeze through. I mean, that's just impractical at the moment, so we're not going to do that. But I'm sure we're going to find some fun stuff to go do. Definitely also going to be skipping any kind of whale like spotting or boats, um, because nausea and things. I mean, maybe not. She seems to be still interested in it, but who knows? Um, I'm just excited to go relax. I've treated myself. As we know, I have talked about the new Odyssey book that just dropped. It's the latest translation. It's going to be Penguin's like de facto new standard version of it. Comes from an expert and teacher on the Odyssey. He even has a memoir about his history teaching the Odyssey, which I'm also going to read after I read the Odyssey, um, because I just think I'll be able to even get more out of it by doing it in that order. So I've actually ordered, speaking of order, the book from Amazon, the physical book. I ordered it online. Everything I've been reading has been digital or an audiobook. And I just thought for this one, I would like to have the latest edition as a copy at home. So I think between the plane and some time by like the pool and then the plane back, like I should easily be able to crush it. I actually, you know what? Is there a howlongtoread.com? I bet there is. Okay, so it seems like the newest version is 560 pages, so let's just round that up to 600. Doing 100 pages, doing 60 pages in an hour, no problemo. Like that is a very conservative, slow or reading page speed, I would think. Um, I guess I don't know the print and the size of the book, so it's possible that that's not completely unrealistic. But um, yeah, I mean somewhere around 10 hours, let's say, give or take. 2 hours in either direction, depending on the print size. I didn't look that part up, and I'm not going to go back and do it now. But that's no problem because that's just if I basically just read on the plane, I'll finish it without even having it at the beach. So great. I'm looking forward to crushing that. That is going to be awesome. Uh, a literal bookend to my weekend away next week will be nice. All right, let's talk about some news. Lot of stuff in the news here that we're going to talk about. Very exciting stuff. Where to begin? There's some off-topic news, there's some entertainment news, there's some video game news, quite a bit actually, I would say in some ways. We're actually not so much as some, interesting news to discuss. Um, so let's begin there. The Nintendo Switch pre-orders have begun. And for many and for most, it was a frustrating experience because it's possible you weren't ordering it like several people I know because the price is a little too high, so they want to wait, or just they have to wait. For right now, there are people that weren't able to get it because it is in very limited fashion. Um, the websites were down, and it was a frustrating and nightmare experience to try and get. Uh, or maybe like you're in a country where like the pre-orders still haven't gone live. So I'll tell you what happened here. I had dodgeball at the time that this went live, which stunk because I wasn't gonna not go, but I did almost stay home to try and nail my pre-order. Instead, I asked Therese to try and get it. Meanwhile, I was gonna just try by my phone. And I told dodgeball, I was like, I'll come in when this is done. I was like, but I might miss the first half of this. So I'm like in my car, I've got my phone. Um, there were only three places. It was Walmart, Target, Best Buy. Best Buy would not load. Walmart would not load for me. Target, I immediately got it in my cart, was able to hit checkout, and then payment wouldn't go through. Payment wouldn't go through. And it wasn't even on my end, my wallet, like I was using Apple Pay, didn't even see any charges trying to happen. It would just Target would be like, sorry, too many checkouts occurring, try again, try again, try again. And then it would be start giving me a different message where it would say like unable to load car on it X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Tom, after about 15 minutes, he got his. About 5, 10 minutes later, Tuna got his. They both managed to get the Mario Kart Deluxe Bundle Edition. I was on there on Target. It was crashing. It started to remove my payment information. First, I couldn't do Apple Pay anymore, just gone, not an option. Then my credit card was just pulled off, and I purposefully went and added like my debit card and my credit cards earlier in the day to make sure everything was up to date so I wouldn't have to do anything. All of them just taken out of my account. So then it would be like, you have to add blah, blah, blah. You have to go. I was like, okay, I'll click on it, try and do PayPal. Every time I even just tried to select method of payment, it would just refresh and be like, sorry, never occurred, sorry, never occurred. And then around 9:35, boom, I texted the boys, said, Dunzo, it's over. I'm screwed. I'm boned because it was gone. That was it. They're sold out on Target. I got in the line at Best Buy. I put it in my phone and I was like, 'cause Walmart still wasn't even working at all. It did say there were hundreds of people had it in their cart, but you couldn't even click on any of the pages. So it seemed like Walmart was just completely broken. Um, I was like, all right, I'll get in the virtual line, as I saw some people in the Discord did as well. I also saw some people in the Discord manage to get it, and I told the boys, Tom went and got in the line as well for me at Best Buy. He and Alex were both refreshing, trying to see if they could score one for me at this point. But I was like, I'm gonna put it in my pocket. I'm gonna go play dodgeball. Uh, I'm like on the outline at dodgeball. I'm like refreshing, and then suddenly Walmart. Like this is 10 minutes later. It's like 9:45. Um, the Walmart app loaded. Like I could click on the page, and I'm like walking from the outline. The match was over to go to the back line. We're gonna start the next match. Um, and the Walmart page loads, and I'm just like frantically adding it to my cart. The bundle was gone, but I was able to put the basic one in my cart. Like the line's getting set up, like they're putting the balls down, they're getting ready to call dodgeball. And my friend's like, he's like, "Are you playing?" He was like, "Maybe you just want to go on the outline if you're just gonna do this." I was like, just hold on. I was like, we haven't actually started yet. And like right at the moment they called dodgeball, went through. I was able to get the Nintendo Switch 2 pre-order through Walmart. Um, they don't have the bundle for me, but like whatever. I figured I would try for the bundle at GameStop. Sorry, not where Tom works. The next day, but did not happen. Did not pan out that way. Um, I will probably try the Nintendo Direct sales, and then if that's the case, I'll just cancel my Walmart one because I would prefer because it's like I'll save $30 and then at some point down the road I want to get the new Pro controller because I really like back buttons in games. Um, Especially the way they have them designed. It's similar to the Scuff controllers. They're like actual input buttons and not like stupid levers, um, which makes just the functionality so much better. And I kind of want the charging grip. I'm not gonna buy a second pair of Joy-Cons. I'm gonna hope that within the year there's like a good pair of third-party ones that have an integrated like handle. 'Cause I don't really like the snap-on case handle things. Um, so I just have a feeling I'm gonna want some kind of third party Joy-Con when available. Who will make it? I don't know, but it would be sick if someone made like pro editions of Joy-Cons that are more ergonomic, have Hall effect Joy-Cons and shit like that. That would be actually like really sick. And I don't entirely know why they don't. I My guess is the cost for it. Maybe they just don't think the audience is there. Um, but maybe it'll be worth it. Like maybe Call of Duty, maybe like Halo are gonna and Fortnite are gonna be huge on the Switch because of the mouse functionality. Like if it works well enough for people, there might be a use for that. It does make me actually want to Google right now. I'm gonna just check because I've never heard of such a thing, but are there like pro high-end Joy-Cons? There's nothing like super special. That's interesting. You would think someone would have attempted it, but maybe it's just not as lucrative when people are mostly playing Tears of the Kingdom and games like that. Some other news. Um, so this also relates to Fantasy Critic, but Elder Scrolls Oblivion remake remaster has come out. I did have it on my team in my draft, and we had to allow me to drop it because that Fantasy Critic Games, the judges decided to change the eligibility of that game. They determined that it was more of a remake than a remaster, which it turns out, I guess, is not. Um, quite like what the original bid system had it for. So I had to remove it. Instead of I didn't want to override it and allow myself to get the points for it because they changed the terms of like the way the game would be scored. Um, because if I would win, I wouldn't want there to be an asterisk. So I was like, all right, well, we'll just drop it then, and I will have to pick a new game. I'm hoping to get I'll probably bid on the Marvel Invasion game, the TMNT style game that came out or is coming out later this year. I got to make sure that's actually going to come out though first before I do that. But I do think that's probably where I'll bid. It sounds like people really are enjoying this game a lot. I never played the original. I can't decide if I'm going to because I've still got uh, stuff to finish when it comes to Assassin's Creed. Um, so yeah, I don't know if I will even be attempting that at this point. Because I've got a lot of work to do still in blueprints, and to start a big game like Elder Scrolls Oblivion. I don't get time for that. But it looks great. It does look like a really great remake. I love the fact that people are, studios are just taking older games and readapting them in Unreal Engine 5. It's pretty cool that you can do that. Um, all right. Speaking of fantasy leagues, fantasy critic leagues, Blueprints has dropped to 89 points, so it is no longer a 90-point game. So Split Fiction remains the high scoring game any of us have so far for the year. So that is great. And speaking of fantasy leagues, let's do an update on our Tribal Council Survivor fantasy draft. I was, prior to this week, points, single digit points behind Stief in second place. And well, this week's boot really has me down because not only did I really like that player and watching them get played, that was a huge bummer, but it also caused a bigger gap to grow between first and second and made like long term really neuter my chances at this because it was one of the I'd say like comparing myself with like for instance who's in third, neither first or third had that player on their team. Um, so I mean if I lose two more, I'm down to only five left. So like this is where the game really changes soon because if you have people on your team who make it to the end versus the people that don't, I mean, the scores just wildly start to flip at the end, which is the fun of it. I hope I can maintain a high top three, but I'm still hoping maybe I can eke out a win here. Being in second place, I do technically have the best chance, but it looks like third place, Bry Guy is pretty well situated. Man, Steve hasn't lost anyone. Everyone in the league except for Bry Guy and Gunch Pros. Oh, Gunch Pot. Even though you are in second to last, having people. Oh, no, you also lost this week's. Okay, so wow, only Steve has 8 players left. Son of a bitch. Good for you, little boat boy. That is impressive. There's a reason you are the man with the Survivor podcast. You are really living up to that here. I'll just go through. So first is Stief. I'm second. Bry Guy's third. Tuna's Boston Robs are in fourth. Uh, right behind him, 4 points behind him. Great Pratam in fifth. Sixth place Slater missed a week, climbed from last to dead center, 348 points. You are 6 points behind Tuna in fourth, 4 points behind Tom, 2 points behind Tom in fifth. So that is very close, followed by Ant Smooth in seventh, Gunch Probst in eighth, and Peto in ninth with 283 points. Which I can see you've had a little bit of a tough go with your picks. You are down to only a few left on your draft, which is a bit of a bummer. But that's how this goes in the game. Survivor. Let's see what else. Okay, here's some news for you. Here's some news for you. New lightsabers coming to Galaxy's Edge. Now, I know I had completed my collection, but it'll never be complete. Let's be real. Now, I do need to, as my wife said, maintain the good and the evil lightsabers, or the dark side, the light side, and the Sith, whatever, however you want to look at it. There are some lightsabers I'm really hoping would one day like come, but I've been wondering whether or not I'd ever be lucky enough to get like the Khmer saber is probably my most coveted that I really want them to produce, but they don't make. And because it's from the Acolyte and it wasn't well received enough to get a second season, although people should know it's actually was way more popular than you think, and it had a ton of viewers. It's just the cost was astronomical and outrageous. And it sounds like there are issues with production and stuff. So I don't know that we're never going to see anything from that again, but I think we might get like an animated conclusion to that story instead. But man, the Stranger was just one of the coolest villains they've ever produced. Everything they were setting up with Darth Plagueis was wild. And I mean, the Stranger, yeah, God, he not only was he so cool, and Manny Jacinto was such great casting, but his lightsabers, like once again, the bad guys have the cool sabers, right? When we first saw Darth Vader in the first one, it was like you have the red saber. But then when see, this is where people think the first real lightsaber gimmick was the double-sided, but it's kind of not because we had the first lightsabers we saw were blue, and then we saw the bad guy, and we're like, oh shit, there's a red lightsaber. Okay, I'm into this. This is cool, right? Second movie, Empire Strikes Back, people forget Darth Vader's lightsaber. He pressed the button and it grew. He could change the size of the blade. When you see him standing there, you can go back and watch, and his saber extends. And then the third movie, Luke's back, but this time green lightsaber, saying something different about his character. Which green opposite color, like on the color wheel from red, complementary colors. So they were doing a kind of duology there with that. And then you get the Darth Maul saber, so another second badass bad guy saber. Count Dooku's where they, I think, didn't really nail it this time. The Count Dooku saber with the curved, I mean, the curved hilt's cool, but it wasn't Darth Maul cool. I think they were expecting people to find that to be like a bigger deal than it was. I mean, incredible casting, but it is no double-sided lightsaber. Uh, and then we had the Sith Inquisitors with their helicopter sabers, which I'm sort of you know ambivalent about. I don't love them. I don't hate them. When they flew like they had personal helicopters in the cartoon, I thought that was ridiculous, but the spinning action of it's pretty dope. Um, and then we got the crossguard saber with Kylo Ren, which was amazing. So fucking cool. And then now we have Balin Skull, which is one of the so Balin Skull and Shin, who are the two sort of anti-Jedi. They're not Sith. They're not necessarily dark side. They're not good. They're not, they are no Jedi. They are kind of the way that Ahsoka didn't ever see herself as a Jedi, and she's kind of in between. They are sort of the same, but for like the dark side. They're not quite evil, but they're also not good, and they align themselves more often with bad people. Whereas like Ahsoka does the opposite, but with, the good guys. So they're not cartoon evil in the same sense, right? They aren't like literally trying to wipe out the galaxy. They're willing to do or help bad guys. They're willing to do bad things or help the bad guys to accomplish their own personal goals, but that's not what their goals are. Um, they just see it as a means to an end, which inherently is bad, but just not in the same sense. Um, so her saber is a standard affair, but it's orange, just like his, which is leaning on that side, kind of like you. So you have the gold, like amber yellow saber that Rey has. That is still a light side saber, but these orange ones are kind of leaning that way, and there is a kind of similarity there with those as well. Lightsabers are kind of like lightsabers are kind of like Harry Potter houses when it comes to their colors and the meanings behind the crystals. Um, the orange saber though on Balin is pretty cool. I don't think they're gonna do this, but it was like extra long. It was almost like having a big broadsword. It was a much longer, bigger saber. And his hilt was also like very big. It was a two-handed lightsaber, like foreshore that you would use. Um, so that was pretty cool. And we are actually getting that now at Disney. So I'm pretty pumped about that. And we're getting Soul from the Acolyte, who, if you've seen it, it's also ends up becoming a red saber, which was like one of probably other than Khmer and his Stranger's lightsaber, which I'm about to talk about, is the other coolest thing that they did during the Acolyte because the act of bleeding a kyber crystal and turning it red by using, dark force energy is such a cool thing, but it's never been canonical in the, live action sense. And I honestly never believed we would see it. I kind of hoped we would, or see the opposite one, which is my favorite, which is the way Ahsoka gets her white blades is to take them from a Sith or a person who had a red blade and then heal the crystal. Um, which I think is really cool because it actually tells you like how badass someone is if they've got the white lightsaber blades because, you know, for a long time, Jedi weren't necessarily going blade to blade, right? They were fighting a lot of people that may have had other weapons lightsabers were useful for, but the Sith were gone for a long time. People weren't actively dealing with them. Um, so to see the White Blade, like, oh, this person took down a Dark Force user, like a Sith, and she had two. So it's pretty cool. I always thought that was neat. But it was awesome that we got to see the Kyber crystal change. And so the hilt they made at Galaxy's Edge, you can switch between blue and red, which is fucking awesome. So I actually am definitely gonna try and get my hands on those. I think the box set that they're selling for Shin and Balin is limited edition, but I don't care as much about getting Shins as I do for Balin skulls. But this would allow me in the future down the road to get Balin and Saul. Now Kamir, who was added in the Acolyte, the Stranger, is like one of the coolest Dark Jedi ever, trained by Darth Plagueis himself. And he has this big, chunky, like huge black lightsaber that has a red blade, and it's got this really cool slanted like emitter that it comes out of, which is very cool. But he also has a secret hidden Shoto blade that breaks away, so he can just like clip it, and while he's fighting, he can just pop the bottom part off, and it's like a really short handle, and it becomes a short blade. And so he has a second one, known as a Shoto blade, and it's so like Assassin's Creed, kind of like hidden lightsaber blade built in. It's so fucking cool. It's so sick. I really hope one day we get that. It wasn't announced this year, but maybe the fact that we got Soul this year is like making me hopeful that at some point next year, then maybe the next May the 4th, we will get that. I think that would be really, really fucking awesome and super cool. Um, let's do some questions for the pod. Email it on unrankedpodcast.com, email it on unrankedpodcast.com, or go to the show notes, go to the Discord, do some questions. All right, this first question is from Rogue. To offset the pricing of the Switch 2, your info gets linked to the purchase of the system. If you buy the Switch for, let's say, $1,000, the games will be $50 to $60. If you pay for the selling price of $550, the games will be $80 to $90. What amount would you be comfortable spending for the system to keep the game's prices as is? Well, to keep the game's prices as is, then it sounds like we'd spend $1,000. So let's just do a little back of the paper, the napkin math here, right? You're saying a $450 difference to drop the games by $30, right? So it goes from 80 to 90 to 50 to 60, which is interesting because 80 to 90 isn't the price. They're 70 to 80, I think. Oh, actually, I guess those physical ones might be 90. Yeah, nuts. Don't buy those. Just don't do it. Uh, the games aren't going to be on there probably. So let's say it's an even $500 to go to 1,000. So to make up $500 for $30 savings in games, that is not the most lucrative deal in the world because you're basically saying you have to, get like 13, 14, you have to get like 13 games, 14 games before you're even like close because it's actually $450 difference. To overcoming that price, and how many people are buying full price games for Nintendo that aren't first party? Pretty much no one. You're really only on the Switch, like you're mainly going to get or need to get the full prices for first party because they're the only ones that don't drop, right? And it's like, let me think about how many Nintendo Switch games from Nintendo did I get? It's like I got a Metroid game, I got two Donkey Kong games, I got one, two, three, four Zelda games, if you count the actual Zelda game and Link's Awakening. Um, I got Mario. I got two Mario parties. I got Mario Kart. I got the two 3D Marios as well. And I guess let's throw in Metroid Prime and that So that's like 15 games. I mean, so I would have only like just if this generation repeats, like I would come close to making that value worth it. So I guess $1,000, but that is a very that's a much bigger upfront cost to overcome those savings. Doesn't seem worth it. Doesn't seem worth it. Um, yeah, you'd have to make that price drop more lucrative because over time, uh, I you know I would need at least 20 guaranteed bangers from Nintendo. I need 20. And I think the truth is there's probably only two a year that I'm like definitely getting when they come out. So there might only be 16. Sometimes there'll be three. There might even be four in a year, but there's no guarantee. And so I think this savings of only a couple $100 over the course of years, like let's say another 8 years, is not necessarily enough to make me want to ever spend more than $1,000 on it. So yeah, I think you actually really kind of, based on your question, answered it yourself. I guess $1,000 is the most, and I probably still wouldn't. I'd probably just rather get the more expensive game prices because then I'd force myself to actually question whether or not I need the games as much. So we'll see. I don't think $80 is gonna hold for every game. It's like Donkey Kong 70. I don't think it's gonna work. I think they're gonna have to bring game prices down. People are gonna start to pirate more again. I don't think that's gonna work. I think that's why video games have kind of artificially been a low cost. It's been such a cheap hobby. Um, is because there are always ways around it. And so I think they're going to remember that because I just think people are going to start pirating shit again. That's probably what's going to happen. It's not like a Switch 2 is going to be that different from a Switch 1 architecture wise that like it's not going to take long for people to run like emulators. I mean, people probably be able to do it within, the first 6 months to a year. And then 4 years down the line, I bet a lot of people will have computers that can do it, not just people that play games. So we'll see. Um, Big Boss Nasty says the Switch 2 doesn't really have a standout gimmick. Maybe the mouse control counts, but it's not quite as weird or unique as Nintendo usually is. If you could add one strange accessory or unexpected hardware to the Switch 2, what would it be? What the fuck did Tuna say here? I can't remember. I can't remember what he wanted. Oh, okay. He Alex wanted some kind of so he wants like a VR headset. He wants, like the Labo VR. Um, he wants the second generation of that. But he also wanted Nintendo. Do you remember the old? Well, you won't remember because most of you are probably younger um, than us old heads are here. Um, but Nintendo on the NES had the Nintendo Playmat. I bet most of you know what this is. And it was basically just a giant controller you stand on. You use it for like track and field and stuff. I think that would be pretty sick. Alex wants an updated version of that so that you could use it in VR, but their VR would have a sort of like method of foot control with this sort of play pad. It's not bad. I want a screen. I want a second screen. They've got that USB-C port on the top. I want like they can make it $100 accessory. Um, they could be 720p screen. Doesn't need to be any higher than that, or just figure out whatever the 2x of the 3DS screen was. Pop that bad boy on there. Just they have that USB-C port on the top for the camera and for charging more conveniently now. So I bet it can support a display as USB-C can. And this is for DS and 3DS games. I want a 3DS accessory. Now, I had another idea. Um, First I said smell-o-vision and forget smell-o-vision because I believe some company did that like last year. I think they were showing it off at like CES, and it has like essential oils and stuff in it. Which, by the way, essential oils not great for you. A lot of people have allergies to them. Also, if you have like cats, you shouldn't use them in your house. They're not good for the cats. So forget it. Forget the essential oils. But I want to go the other direction. There's this spoon out there that uses electrodes and gives you like tiny little electric charges on your tongue, and it makes your food more salty. I want Nintendo to invest in that, and I want them to make some sort of like lollipop stick thing that you put in your mouth. And now we're gonna get taste division. I want the taste of Nintendo. I want to know, we could get a lot of different ways with it. If they can make it work with all the different senses, like savory, sweet, salty, sour, it would be awesome. Imagine a cooking mama game where we compete against each other, but then you taste the other people's dishes, and like the person with the best dish will actually taste the best. People like if you mess it up, it'll taste strange. Imagine like a Mario Party game where you put, the Nintendo Pop, the little lollipop, the Nintendo Pop's what we'll call it, put it in your mouth, and on screen it'll be like Yoshi's eating a cake. And you use the new Nintendo camera and everyone's looking at your face and they don't know, is what you're tasting cake or are you tasting pickles? Are you tasting something really sour or really spicy or really like something that is not the image on screen, and you have to try and fake the cake reaction, and they have to guess like, are they actually tasting the cake or are they not tasting the cake? And you will only know as the person who has it in your mouth, and it gets revealed. A lot of weird things we could do with this. You could taste all your cooking in Tears of the Kingdom. You could I think, yeah, Nintendo Pop. Then they can also sell a bunch of weird new, there could be a new generation of the Nintendo condom for the Wii, but this one is like a taste condom, so that, or everyone has to buy their own pop stick, which, you know, $100, 80, probably Nintendo's new pricing, let's say $80 each. It's a lot of households, a lot of pops. It's a revolutionary new concept. Okay, I'm going to briefly talk about blueprints now. So with this game, from what I understand, there are some people out there who are not big into the RNG of it. However, the game doesn't work without it. It is what it is because of the RNG. And I think what people believe you want to do in this game is like you start to figure out a puzzle and there is this urge to go and solve that puzzle and look further into it. However, what the game wants you to do, and even explicitly tells you at times, is not to try and follow your own path, but to uncover the paths that the house is laying out for you instead. Which this game is so multi-layered. I guarantee whatever room you're in, there's something you can be doing. There's something that room is telling you, there's information. And even though maybe you think you found the puzzle that's ahead of you. Maybe you believe for a moment that you've seen, you know, what the overarching puzzle of this game is. You haven't. If you've gone through the door and you've made it to room 46 and you've passed through the antechamber, congratulations. That's great. You've done, let's call it the main quest of the game. And I think for a lot of people that will be a satisfying place to stop. Maybe they will return to it. Maybe they'll just go watch a YouTube video on like everything that's there, what's layered. But let me tell you what an unbelievable and so far rewarding frustration and puzzle game this has been, because the end is truly just the beginning of this game. And the other day I was texting Alex and I said, I found it. I'm working on the final puzzle. Like, this has got to be the grand puzzle of the game, because there are these things that require me to get all these different keys, and each one of these keys has like puzzles to get to each one, and then you have to solve another puzzle after you get the key in the door, and you have to solve a different puzzle to get. So I'm like, this is the master, especially because there's a place where you can go when you've completed all of this, and then you could take the information that you've gotten from it and you can set the, and I'm like, that is it. This is the, if you played Tunic, Alex and I have talked about Tunic in the past, there is the golden path that you can. Tunic is not actually an action game. In fact, to beat that game correctly, to get the true ending of that game, you do not use combat. It is through a puzzle that is in front of you the whole game, and it's connected to every other puzzle and every other thing that's been in the game the whole time. And that's what's so incredible about it. There's this moment when you find this puzzle and you understand how to do it, what it is, and how involved it is to your entire experience. It's like you thought you knew what this game was, and it turns out it was something entirely different the whole time. Yeah, it was just one of the best gaming moments I've ever had, and this is the same, except I thought I had already found it. I thought I found the golden path, and it was like, actually, everything you've done the whole time, everything you've read, every note I've taken, every book I've scanned, every document I've saved, every note, it didn't, none of it mattered in a way, because amongst all of it, it seems like there has been this other puzzle the whole time that I didn't know. And now I need to go back through all of it and almost start this journey over so I can solve this other. And I wonder, is that the end? Or is this just actually the next? Is there something beyond this? Because if there is, I can't even conceive of it. It's so unbelievable. Like, I truly do. There's a part of me that would like to just print out everything I've scanned and put it on a corkboard with some red lines, because when I got to this moment in the game, like, I found a new clue and it changed everything. It just changed everything. And I'm talking like I'm 50 plus hours into this game. And I really thought like, oh, I have a long-term set of goals. I have so many. Every time I'm playing, I'm accomplishing something right now, even after having, been to that final room on multiple occasions now. I just felt like, oh, I had this great laundry list of puzzles to solve. And now I'm like, these all feel so inconsequential to what this true puzzle is. Um, it's almost like, it's almost like I thought I was running in like a marathon, but it's actually like there's this relay race of marathons that I'm running. It's I'm actually each one of these legs is just passing the torch, like to light the Olympic torch kind of a thing here for puzzles. It's fucking unbelievable. It's so awesome. I don't really want to talk spoilers, but I just wanted to get I texted Giovanni about it today. I was like, hey man, this new clue I found. I was like, that fucked me up because, dude, I had to put the game down and come back to it later because and that was basically I texted Alex, I texted Gio, and Alex hasn't found it yet. I'm really looking forward to, I believe for certain he probably will by next week, especially now that he knows that there's something there because I did talk to him about this. And not in a physical place. He just knows that there's something else beyond what he thinks is happening. And I mean, this story is unbelievable. Like, what planet am I on? What is the history of this world? Who is this family? It has been like this story is, and the artwork that's popping up now. I mean, just some of the hardest puzzles I've ever played as well. Um, it's great. It's amazing. It's incredible. It's one of the best video games I've ever played of all time. What a delight. How lucky I am to be able to experience this game. So. That's about it. I think I'm gonna wrap it up now. I hope you enjoyed this, at least some of you, those who decided to stick around. Um, in the end, I had fun doing it, but there was a level of like, damn, I had a good conversation with Tuna yesterday, lost all of that, and he didn't even have to redo it. He was like, "You're on your own, bud. I am flying to go do a." He's on another bachelor party, very, very famous and popular dude doing whiskey tours, escape rooms. Sounds like a good time. But speaking of good times, we'll be back next week, doing it a day early before I travel. And until then, I hope you all can stay unranked and suck it.